In thinking of what I might say to those of you listening, um, one thing comes to mind that is different than most of you have ever experienced or even heard of, and that relates to how your grandma or your great grandma or your mother, or depending on where you are in our family tree, how she and I got together and became sweethearts and got married. So I'm going to tell you this story because it's unusual and I think you may be interested in it. I first saw Charlotte, my sweetheart, who later became my sweetheart, on the BYU campus. She was coming out of a class, and there was a trail kind of coming off of the hill along, I think it's along 7th North. And I was going up the trail to a class, and I noticed her, and I thought, wow, who is that gal? And so the next day when I went to class, I saw her again. So she usually had a class that she was leaving at the time I was going to a class. So I kind of watched for her when I would go to class, and I kept wondering, how do you get to know a girl like her? And so one day, I, I have to admit, I turned around and followed her to see where she lived. She lived in Mangum Hall down at the bottom of the hill. Well, another time I saw her, she was always with some prominent person, like the quarterback on the football team or the basketball star, or these kind of people that were clear out of my class. And so I thought, there's no chance for me with her. But I had kept her kind of on mind, and it ended up that I started dating a girl in Mangum Hall. And one reason was just so that I could maybe get a chance to see this girl that I'd noticed. Well, the girl I was dating was named Gwen Lalleton, and and I liked her as a date. Um, the problem was she got to liking me more than I was liking her, and I'm getting close to going on a mission, and I didn't want to get tied up with anybody. And when she found out I was going on a mission, she tried to talk me out of it and said, I think there's a future for you and me here. You don't want to go on a mission. That's not that's not what you ought to be doing. And anyway, that kind of turned me off on her a little bit too. But now you need to know that I get my mission call to the Spanish American Mission. The office was in El Paso, Texas, and I get on a bus and ride a bus all the way from Salt Lake City down through Cuba, New Mexico to El Paso, Texas. The first day that I got in there, along with about 11 other missionaries, we had a large dinner. And one of the people that was sitting at the table right next to me was an elder called Elder Coons, Gene Coons. And he was in there rehabbing from a broken leg that he got riding his motorcycle. And so we were sitting next to each other, and this Elder Coon said, so tell me about where you're from. And I said, well, I'm from Roosevelt, Utah. And he said, well, you go to school, or what have you been doing? I said, yeah, I've been going to BYU. And he said, well, you know what? My girlfriend goes to BYU, and I can't hardly wait until I get released in about 2 more months because we're going to get married as quick as I get home. And she's been waiting for me my whole mission. And she's been so true to me, and I'm so anxious to see her. Did you ever happen to run into a gal there by the name of Gwen Lolliton? Well, I could have died. I was just taking a spoonful of potatoes, and I didn't know whether to swallow them or to cough or to get up and leave. I'd just been with Gwen Lolliton the Saturday night before, and I'm telling you, she was not waiting for Gene Coons. She was trying to convince me that I shouldn't go on a mission, that maybe things could work out for us. I didn't know what to say because he was saying how wonderful she was and how faithful she was and how he was so anxious to see her, and she wasn't thinking a bit about him the last 2 or 3 times I saw her. Anyway, that was the first experience that I had in the mission field. And I was then sent out to San Antonio, Texas, a little later on, and I became a district leader there, and we got a new group of missionaries that we had to go down and pick up at the bus. And so I was the one kind of in charge to go down along with my companion, and I think there was another one or two that went with us to meet these new missionaries. Well, when we got to the bus, we saw these missionaries getting off the bus, and who did I see? But I saw this girl that I had been kind of interested in at BYU, and I thought, wow, that's the same gal that I used to kind of want to get better acquainted with. I didn't say anything to her because I went over and helped her with her suitcases and the others with theirs. And it ended up that her name was Sister MacDonald. And it so happened then that as things settled in, I learned more about her, that she had a couple of boyfriends that she had left at home, and these boyfriends still wanted her to not go on a mission because they both wanted to marry her. And one of the boyfriends, his name was Hatch, I'll think of his first name. He was in the Army and stationed in San Antonio. And when he found out that she was in San Antonio, he started showing up at all of our branch meetings, our Spanish-speaking missions. And that really upset Charlotte because she was there to be on a mission, and she didn't want to be bothered by Roy Hatch. And so she started to talk to me about, how do I get rid of these guys? There's one of them that's still home, and he's got a mission called to New Zealand. So once he goes there, I won't have to worry about him. But Roy's coming to all of our meetings here, and I've told him I'm here on a mission. I am not here to be dating or to be talking or fraternizing with him. So anyway, I gave her some pretty good advice as her missionary counselor, and tried to answer her questions and so on. It so happened that later she got transferred to the Lower Valley, and he ended up showing up down there also. And he got transferred in the Army some way or other to get down to the same place he was. mission. And she told me, she said, when he showed up, he wanted to give me a typewriter. And I said, Roy, don't you even get out of the car. I am here on a mission. How did you find out where I was? Anyway, I became the mission secretary. So I was in touch with all of the other missionaries, sending them Books of Mormon or sending them out notices from the office and so on and so forth. So periodically, um, Sister McDonald would say, hi, things are working out better with my boys. I don't worry about them. Things are a lot better than they were, and so on and so forth. So I just stayed in touch with her a little bit, but we would become very good friends. And then I got released from my mission about 6 months before she was released. And so we didn't ever see each other again in the mission field or after I got released. The next time I saw her was at BYU again. I was back at BYU. I'd just come out of an accounting test, which I'd flunked. I thought I had flunked. Probably didn't flunk it, but I probably got a C. And here's Sister McDonald coming up the steps of the Joseph Smith building that I was coming out. And she said, Elder Nixon, how are you? And I said, Sister McDonald, what are you doing here? She says, oh, I came up to the missionary reunion. She says, are you going to the reunion? And I said, well, yeah, I am. Now, I hadn't shaved for a day or two. I'd been up all night studying for accounting. I was discouraged because I hadn't done well in the test, I know. And here's Sister McDonald, and she wants to talk. And she says, are you going to go to the mat dance this afternoon? That's a matinee dance that they have on campus. And I said, well, maybe. And she says, well, you come because I'm going to be there. And I want to talk to you. And so I said, okay. Well, I got to the mat dance, and I only got a chance to dance with her about maybe 2 minutes at the most, because people could cut in and to take your partner, and it was a process that you just traded partners off. And at any rate, I was sitting there watching her dance with all these guys, and I was thinking, dang, I want to dance with her, but I didn't get a chance to. Well, one thing she said to me, she said, be sure and come to Sister Rhodey's house tonight, because we're going to have a little gathering before the reunion. Now, I found out, and I kind of knew, that she was trying to line me up with Sister Rhodey, who was her mission companion. And I had zippo interest in Sister Rhodey, nothing. But I really liked Sister McDonald. And the problem is I had a date with Graciela. Graciela, she was a little French girl. She was half French and half Spanish. And she was a knockout. I'd taken her out before, and I remember one day we went to a basketball game, and we had to walk all the way to the length of the court. And I remember looking up, and there was 11,000 students there, and their head would just follow us along, and they were not looking at me. They were looking at her because she was a looker. Anyway, she's the one I had a date with at the missionary reunion. Well, here's Charlotte and Sister Rhodey sitting in a chair next to each other, and I walk in with Gracia, and I didn't realize really that they'd been planning to get me to come to Sister Rhodey's house before the reunion, and I didn't realize that she was trying to set me up with Sister Rhodey. And here I walk in with this Graciela. She's the kind of girl that you kind of like to show off, but and she's not the kind that you marry. And she had, I remember going to a basketball game one time. We had to walk clear from the south end of the gymnasium to the north end along the floor, side of the floor there to get to our seats. And I can remember every head in that student body just turned and was watching us, and they were not looking at me. They were looking, they were looking at something a lot better, and that was across the. At any rate, Sister McDonald and Sister Rhodey were not very impressed with the date I brought. And I learned later from Charlotte, later on, that she was planning on getting Sister Rhodey and I together that night, and I ruined all their plans because I showed up with this date. The next day, I ran into Charlotte again, and she wanted to come and visit with me and with Elder Snell, who was living with me, and Elder Acey. We were all living together going to school. She just wanted to come and say hello to us before she went back to El Paso. She was not in school. She was still living at home, but she was headed back to El Paso. And so I talked to her that afternoon when she came over to visit, and I got to thinking, you know, I was thinking about trying to find somebody that would marry me before I went into the Army, and Charlotte kept kind of popping up about, boy, she'd be a good wife for you. Jack, you ought to think about her. So I made a list of all the girls that I thought might say yes if I did. Not that there were a lot of them that would, but who would I really like to marry? And every time Charlotte McDonald kind of came to the surface, and I thought, I've never even dated her. I know her really well, but boy, she'd make a great wife. But I haven't even got any kind of relationship with her. She's clear down in El Paso, and I want to get this done before I go in the Army in the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. So I called her. I orchestrated a trip to Mexico with us going through El Paso, and I would call Sister McDonald and I said, there's 4 of us going to Mexico. We're going to be going through El Paso at a certain time. Wonder if you would line up some dates for us so that we just have a fun time together, and I want to take you out. And she said, oh, okay, when are you going to be here? Yeah, I'll get them. And we get down there, and she had done nothing, zero, about lining us up any dates. And she says, well, I just thought you were kidding, Elder Nixon. I didn't think about it, and I'm so sorry. And my friends were saying, yeah, Nix, you're really something, you know. You can have all these dates for us, and we got nothing. We went on into Mexico, and I thought, I'm going to try one more time. So I wrote her a postcard and said, we're coming out of Mexico on such and such a date. Let's line up those gals again, and we'll see you at such and such a time, and I'll pick you up from work and on such and such a date. We get out of Mexico, picked her up. She was there where I told her I'd meet her. She hadn't done anything about getting us any dates. And I thought, crying out loud. Anyway, so I came on home disappointed because I thought I'd at least get some kind of contact there because I had her on my mind. I thought, that's the girl I want to marry. I'm gonna ask her, even though I know it won't work out. She won't have me. But anyway, I got home and I thought, you really flubbed up, Nixon. Your friends, they don't believe you anymore that you got any contacts. Charlotte doesn't want to go out with you, or Sister McDonald want to go out with you. She didn't put forth any effort. But that's the girl I want to marry. So I picked up the phone and I called El Paso and I called Charlotte and I said, I wasn't calling her Charlotte, I was calling her Sister McDonald at that time. I said, Sister McDonald, this is Jack Nixon. I'm coming back to El Paso. I've got some unfinished business. Well, I didn't know you had any business down here, Elder. What do you want? And I says, I'll let you know when I get there. I'm going to be back down Friday night. And I'd like to pick you up on the corner where I was going to meet you. And she says, okay, that's good. Okay. I got in the car and I drove 700 miles to get there. And I picked her up and I was out of gas. And so I pulled in the service station, and while the guy was filling the car, in those days attendants filled your car, I thought, it's now or never. And I had my Delta Phi, I had my fraternity pin on the visor of my car. So I reached up and I took it off and I says, have you ever seen one of these? And she says, no, what's that? I said, this is my fraternity pin. And there's only 2 women that are allowed to wear your fraternity pin. And she says, oh, okay, so? And I said, one of them is your mother. And the other's the girl you're going to marry. I'd like you to take this. She took the pen, but she didn't get the significance of what I was saying. She just kind of held it. And she says, what are you saying, Elder? And I said, I want to marry you. No, I said, this is what I said. I said, when are we going to get married? She says, what do you mean? And I said, I'd like to marry you. She says, Elder, I always admired you. One of the top missionaries, and I always thought the world of you, and you gave me so much good counsel, but I don't even know your first name. And I said, most people who are my friends call me Jack. She said, Jack, oh, yeah, I think I've heard that. Yeah, I like that name. And she's still holding the pen. Now, I've told her what I wanted. It took phenomenal courage to do what I did. And I knew the next person that talked was going to lose. And so I just did not say another word. She knew what I wanted. She's holding the pen. She knows that if she puts it on, that's a yes. And if she doesn't put it on, it's a no. It's a no. And I thought, at least I'm over the hump. It seemed to me like it was 45 minutes. It's probably 45, probably maybe a minute or 2. And she just sat there. And she said, are you serious? Or are you kidding? And I said, I'm very serious. I would like you to marry me. And then after a long time, it seemed, she took the pen and put it on. So I was thrilled. So then we were driving by that time, and there's a place called The Point in El Paso where people go to get a little better acquainted. And so we drove up onto The Point, and we got a little better acquainted there. And that's the first time I'd ever kissed her. First time I've ever really held her hand. She did say there was one other time that I'd held her hand. She told me later. She said, we had a prayer circle that you were organizing in El Paso, or in San Antonio. And I remember you were going around telling everybody where to stand, and you then came over and stood by me and took my hand in the prayer circle. I didn't remember that, but she said I had held her hand before that. We then went to visit her family. I already knew two of her brothers because I'd labored there. At any rate, that was our courtship. We were then married. I was in the Army when I sent her her ring. My dad bought the ring and mailed it to her for me. I talked to her on the phone maybe every other day when I'd have a chance. I sent her $400 during the time I was in basic training, 16 weeks, that I made from cutting hair. I cut hair for 50 cents a head. We started saving money. She was saving money. When I got out of basic training, 16 weeks later, I hitchhiked all the way from California to El Paso, Texas, because we were to be married the following day, actually 2 days following the night that I got to El Paso. And I never worried about hitchhiking, and that's the way we traveled in those days. I'd put my military suit on, and I'd get out, and I rode with drunks, and I rode with people who, all kinds of different types of people to get there. But I ended up getting there the night before I had to be there. We left early the next morning, drove to Mesa, Arizona. We're married in the Mesa Temple, and we've had a wonderful life, and we've got 70 some odd posterity now. And I'd never kissed your mother or your grandmother before she finally said that she would marry me. And once she told me that, I kissed her quite a few times. So that's the story of how we got married.